Hey guys, this is part 4 of how I got into games and moving from employee to entrepreneur. This next part is about when I first started at EA in Shanghai. So, as I mentioned, I built this small studio with two friends called Visual Idea Studio. We closed down after a few months. Can't remember how long it was. This was around 2008. And I think probably mid-2008, actually. Maybe. Oh, God, I can't remember. Yeah, maybe something like that. Maybe early 2009. Because the dates I'm getting kind of mixed up now. So, because I know when I started Cobalt Play was early 2011. So, yeah, anyway. The company had closed and I was feeling, kind of down about that and wondering what to do next because I was kind of lost. That was actually the time when iPhone had just been released. The iPhone App Store had been released. I think maybe a little bit ago. Actually, it was about a year ago when the iPhone App Store had been released, and we were hearing loads about this. And in fact, while I was working at Visual Idea Studio, we decided to build like a small iPhone test game, and I did this. A very small application which was just like a stupid little, it makes a whip sound when you do that, and we outsourced this work to somebody, I think overseas, someone who was Chinese, but they were overseas at the time, and tried to sell it for $1, and it got a few sales a day, but it wasn't very good. And so that was actually my first taste of the iPhone App Store. I did the artwork for the game, I did the design for the game, I used Photoshop, I did the sounds for the game, and I sent all of these assets to the guy who was building it. But I didn't have an iPhone, I had no idea how to do this. I sent him our iTunes account that we paid for like $100, and he actually uploaded the game for us as well, and it was released. And I thought we were going to make $1 million at that point. I thought, wow, we're going to release this app and it's going to make tons of money, and it didn't. It really didn't. It made like a couple of dollars each day, and that was the early days of the App Store. It could have done a lot better, but I guess because the first taste of being in the App Store was not didn't go very well, and so I didn't follow it up. If that first taste, first experiment into the App Store had gone well, I would have followed it up sooner, but I guess I was put off pretty early, and at this point I was kind of not running out of money because I had the teaching job, but I really wanted to sort of I needed to get another job quickly, and that's when EA called. One of the headhunters at EA, they gave me a call and said, "Oh, you're in Shanghai." I said, "Yeah." They said, "Oh, well, do you want to come for an interview for EA because we're looking for a project manager?" And I was like, "Whoa, yeah, great, amazing. I know EA games. I've played EA games for years and years, like FIFA or NBA or whatever." And so I went for the interview, and then I think what would be, I'm just trying to figure out the date that I started at EA in Shanghai. It was because that was 2011, 2009. Trying to think, maybe mid 2009. That was about when it happened, around mid 2009, because I was only there for about a year and 9 months, maybe around April 2009, I think, something like that. Because I was there for like sort of a year and 9 months, something like this. So they interviewed me, and I had a couple of calls with like their managers, and so I started there as a development manager, or sort of a project manager, handling scheduling and communicating with the teams who were overseas in Canada or Australia or wherever. And that was a big experience for me in games, a really big experience. It was a very, EA is a very process-driven company. I think you can call it that. It's very formal, very corporate America, and just for example, like big companies, like when they hire you, they've got HR, departments, managers. They've got onboard, onboarding processes, where they bring you in and they've got presentations about the company, and they've got, little swipe cards, and they take your picture and arrange your swipe card and arrange your insurance. And so there's a lot of processes to it. They've got, all of the software and tech setup that they need. So they're a big company that's been around a long time. They've got a lot of employees, and they do everything by the book. Not completely the opposite to the way that we sort of operate right now as a small company. So, but that was really cool, and I was actually thinking I'd be with EA for a long time. I was handling a couple of art projects. So we basically, in EA Shanghai, I was looking after the art projects. So it was kind of like an outsourcing studio for the other full development studios that were in the US and Canada. And our job was to build the artwork for characters and levels. And I had a couple of teams under me, which was great. And I really built up some really good friendships there. And it was cool. It was mainly Chinese staff and then a few of the foreigners who worked there as well. And I learned a huge amount. I really did. I have to say, the guys that I worked with, especially like the other development managers and my bosses, were some of the smartest guys I've ever met in my life. They were like super smart. I felt stupid and I felt dumb a lot of the times as well. I'd sort of go into meetings and it's kind of like I didn't have much experience at that point, and I just kind of, the first meeting I was in, I was like, what the heck are they talking about? And I heard words like dashboard. I was like, what the hell's dashboard? What are you talking about? And I had to ask the guys afterwards, what are they talking about? And like, there's a lot of corporate speak as well, like low-hanging fruit. I was like, I had to go, what are they talking about low-hanging fruit? I had to look online, what do you mean? So that was interesting. One-to-ones, they had one-to-ones as well, and that was something new. We didn't do one-to-ones in Ultrazone. It wasn't that kind of like established, so there's a lot of corporate speak and branding and things like that. A lot of stuff that big companies get into once they do go big. And probably a lot of small companies don't get into that much, especially early in the sort of like development phases. Developing times of the company, but yeah, the guys that I worked with, they were some of the smartest guys I ever worked with. So it was great to get a good taste of how companies are run, how larger companies are run in the development space. Some of the most professional guys, teams that I'd worked with as well, they really knew what they were doing. They knew about the engines that EA uses. They knew all about, like, obviously Maya and 3D Max. I got to see how animation was built as well by the teams. And for me, the tools that I was using were things like Microsoft Project and Excel. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I picked up a lot of knowledge during my time there. Whilst I wasn't working in EA, I was also building an app for the first time myself. I was coding my own app for the first time. I'd heard about the spectacular success of games on iPhone. Why didn't I do iPhone at that time? What was wrong with me? I should have bought a Mac. That was probably it. The reason is I didn't have a Mac. I should have got a Mac, and I should have started coding for iPhone like early on. But that was something. Oh, light's bright. That was something that I didn't do, and I should have done, to be honest, because Macs were kind of alien to me and kind of expensive as well. So I decided, I heard that the Windows Store for Windows 6.5, 6.1, and 6.0 was coming out, and I thought, this is Microsoft. They're bigger than Apple. They've got their Windows Phone CE, whatever the heck it was back then. And what year was this? What did I say? It was 2009. Yeah. So I started developing an app then called Phone Fart Repeat, and it was basically a fart app because everyone was doing fart apps, and I'd heard that fart apps were popular on iPhone and did really well, and so I spent time in Visual Studio using C# to build this fart application, and it wasn't a game. I had no idea how to move objects around the screen. I'd done a couple of tests, but really it was just an app that, you know, when you tapped on the button it made a sound, and that was kind of complicated for me. That was really, but it was a fully complete project, even though it was complicated and small. And for me, it was a full commercially released project, and I did a free version and a paid version, and I think on the best day it made like 15 downloads or something like that. So like $15, and that was the second time when I thought, hey, we're going to be rich, because I got into the Windows Store very early on. Like I was one of the first people to release an application on the Windows Store within the first like week or two, something like that. I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was. And I had a Windows 5 phone, a Windows 5 touch phone that I bought in England years ago, and that's what I was testing on. And I was testing on emulators as well, so I really got to sort of understand Visual Studio at that point, and C# and how that works. And it was really complicated, but there was some good tutorials online. But yeah, that I thought, oh, we're going to be super rich, but it really didn't happen at all. Just no way. I don't think that store had even nearly like the level of like impact, and I guess like a lot of the users, maybe it wasn't installed on a lot of devices or something like that, but iPhone was killing it. And I read like successes from iPhone, and I really should have got into it earlier. But you know, that's another lesson. You know, when you believe something's going to be big and hot, and you can feel it on the horizon, then get in. You know, and that's the same that we're doing now with VR. We're trying to get into it now, which is what I should have done a while ago. But you know, it's a good lesson to learn anyway. So I think after that, what did I start to work? I think I started to also do some more Unreal stuff at that point. I'd started to do more I was still studying all the time, guys, with engines and coding at this time. I was still, while I was working at EA, during my lunch hours and even after EA, I was watching all of these like internal tutorial videos on how to build stuff using the engines in EA, and how to do artwork and game design and all this stuff. And it was an overload of information. That was one of my problems as well. That was one of the challenges, was trying to figure out a clear line to releasing a commercial product that you can make money on. It was not very simple, because I didn't have a clear path for that, because there was Unreal with PC and Xbox, and then there was, you know, a Torque engine around still, and there was iPhone, and there was Windows Phone that I was also testing, and you know, there was artwork to consider, there was 3D, there was 2D, there was languages, you know, C++, C#, JavaScript, whatever. It wasn't that easy to just figure out the direction, not just the learning, but the actual direction to making a commercial product that you can make a living off, a business model, basically. So I did that for during my time at EA, and that was like 1 year and 9 months or something like that. And eventually, I was on a couple of bigger projects that were going to be released on Xbox, and I don't know if it was 360, maybe PS3 at the time. We were building the artwork, but then eventually there was some problems with my work, and I wasn't happy there either. And basically, they politely asked me to go, and I agreed with them as well. I said I'm not what they're looking for, and there was just some disagreements on the way that I thought things should have been done. And disagreements, of what they wanted, and office politics or whatever, and so anyway, I just said, yeah, that's totally cool, and that was a scary step though. Even though I was in total agreement, because I also wanted to leave at that point, I was still very scared, because it was like the first time where I had kind of been let go, and then I was like, right. now I'm on my own and I've got to figure this out. So it was kind of scary, and so I called my wife and I said, "Oh, yeah, maybe I've just been fired." And she was like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, so I've got to do something now." And that pushed me to get the Mac and start building for iPhone. So it was that pain and that dire sort of scary situation that pushed me. I had money. I wasn't gonna be on the street or anything. I had money. It was fine. But I'm very need a security blanket at that point. I needed my regular salary. I needed my the comfort of knowing that I have a job. So that like most people, so I was thrown into that, and I was like, "Oh my God, I've got no job now. What the hell am I gonna do? Should I go back to teaching or whatever?" But for about how long was it now? I think 3 months I'd started learning Unity even while I was at EA. I remember clearly that I decided to learn Unity, and the reason was because I was going around in circles with the engines. That was the second thing. So the first time in 2006 was, I've got to decide what to do because I'm going around in circles and it's just driving me insane. I'm going to pick something, I'm going to stick with it. Pick C++, pick game development, and just stick with it and get great at something. Just get great at anything. Doesn't matter, even if you're happy or not. Just get great at something that can be your trade, And so I was going around in circles at that time in late, when was it now? Late 2010. And I was doing a bit of Unreal, looking at Talk. The Windows thing didn't work out. I was expecting to make a lot of money on that, and it just didn't work out. So, and I was very financially motivated, and I still am. I'm very financially motivated. I love building games, but even back then, I wasn't building games just for fun. I wanted it as a career, something that I could make, a great business on, a great business model, and make a lot of money on. That was it. It's just that I also happen to love games as well, of course, and so I decided to do something that I loved. And so anyway, I'd gone around in circles, and I picked Unity. I'd seen that Unity had iPhone. I did a little bit of research on it, and I was just like, right, let's just stick with this engine. Stick with it, okay? And I actually had built a full 3D first-person shooter prototype, and it was kind of like a futuristic laser sports battle game, and that I was doing that with my friend as well. And this was also an interesting period as well, because I had decided to do this FPS game without any kind of like real experience without really knowing where we were going with this. Was this a PC game? Was this an Xbox game? I didn't know the markets. I didn't know what the end consumer was. Like, how do you get to that person? How do you make them buy your game and then make revenue? The Windows thing was clear to me, but it fallen through, and I didn't have any iPhone experience at the time, so that wasn't part of my consideration. But we built this first-person shooter, like futuristic sort of laser game, first-person shooter, and the guy was running around the sports arena shooting other guys. So it kind of felt a little bit like Halo 5 now. There's that arena in Halo 5 where they're on sort of like a base training ground, and they run on, and they've got like, it's like a Tron-esque looking thing, and that's kind of what we did as well. So I built all of the basic level, and I did all the coding, and I started off with a base project, and it was multiplayer. It was online as well, using Unity multiplayer, and you could play it. And one of my friends, my artist friend, he was the one working on the character, the main character, who was the same for all players. And this is a big memory as well. I paid one of my friends' outsourcing studios several hundred RMB. I can't remember how much, maybe 500 RMB, about £50 to do some animation work for us for this character. So they rigged the character and did the animation, and that was the first time I invested in something. This was while I was still working in EA. I think it was. Yeah, I was still working in EA at this point. This was before I left EA. But to pay somebody and invest in something was a big step as well, because I remember thinking like, oh my god, like this is money that I'm giving to somebody else, and it's not small to me. I don't feel like this is small money, and yeah, that was a big step actually. Getting to paying somebody to do work for me was a big step, and because I felt I was parting with my money, and I usually hold my money quite close. I'm not free and easy with my money so much. My wife knows this very well, so that was a little bit of a difficult thing for me. So we built this FPS, and I tried to basically pull a team together. My artist friend who's here in Shanghai, and then another programmer who was going to be the lead programmer, and I think I spoke with a designer as well. So these were guys who I didn't. I knew the artist pretty well, but the programmer, I sort of got to know him, and I met him, and a designer, I was speaking with him as well, but they quickly, the designer and the programmer quickly showed a lot of enthusiasm. Sorry. God. Sorry, guys. I hope that's not been stuck in my tooth the whole time. Sorry. They showed a lot of enthusiasm in the beginning, but that enthusiasm quickly died down. Asking them to come to meetings after they finished their full-time job, or come to Starbucks to talk about this work, just didn't happen. It just fell apart. The programmer guy just stopped replying. The other guy just stopped replying. And I was trying to pull this team together to get investment. I remember we went to see an investor with this first-person shooter game to get investment from this guy, another guy that had. Sorry, I'm losing my trail of thought here, guys. One of my friends who knew this investor, and we went to show him the game, and he was kind of interested, but he wanted to make a Plants vs Zombies game, and so he wasn't interested. But he was actually quite a good contact that I maybe should have followed up with. But he wanted to do this Plants vs Zombies game, and I wanted to do this first-person shooter, and we couldn't communicate directly together because he spoke Chinese and didn't speak English, so that was always a problem. So yeah, that never materialized. And then, like I said, trying to get the team to come together for meetings and talk about the game and show them what I'd worked on, because I was working like crazy to get this first-person shooter built. I mean, literally in Unity, I was working every day after work. This was a big change for me, was pushing myself to work after finishing my full-time work hours. I would finish at EA from like 9 till 6 or 7. I was absolutely shattered, knackered, super tired, and then come home and then do more work on this game was really hard. Building that work ethic, building that constantly working habit took a long time, and it's a very difficult thing to build, I think, because especially when you're not making any money off it, and especially when you've already got a full-time job, it is really hard. I believe that I've got it now because I do work every day pretty much, and it's you know, this is my business and it's my baby, whatever. But in the beginning, that was really tough, and it was tough to get people to come together and do work outside of their outside of their full-time job. That's really hard. It's so hard. You cannot ask people to do work for you without paying them. You have to pay them. That was another thing that I learned, because it's when people are excited about games and excited about the things that they love and the passion, it's easy in the beginning. It's very, very easy when it's hot and it's new and it's like, oh yeah, we'll build this awesome game. It quickly dies. Very, 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 very quickly dies. And if you can't offer somebody money, you have to do it yourself. You've got to do it yourself then. Okay, so that was something that I learned really, at that point, and I've kind of always, that's why I always say when people say, oh, you know, I'll do some free test work for you, I'm like, no, we'll pay you as an employee, and if that can work, then great. If not, then don't worry about, forget it, you know, because it's not a business. It's not a business if you're not paying people. There was actually another guy I remember a few months before, and he, I also tried to get a investment with him as well. I think he approached me somehow, a Chinese guy who worked here, who works at Ubisoft, and he was building his own MMO game, and they wanted to build up a massive game, but they were looking for investors. And and that's something that I worked a lot on as well, meeting with them, trying to meet the team together at the same time, trying to find investment, being super enthusiastic for this whole thing, you know, really trying to pull something together. That's what I was trying to pull this team together, but it doesn't work if you can't offer people money. If you can't give them money, that enthusiasm goes away. And the example that I just told you about the first person shooter, the same thing happened with this MMO thing as well. The guys basically, I guess they knew that I didn't have much experience, or they knew that I couldn't find investors or something. Just didn't work. I also tried to find investment for a Mario Kart style game that I designed. So I designed a game and sort of like a Mario Kart flying game, and I was trying to find investment for that in China. This was during my time in EA, so I was still spending loads of time trying to design something, trying to build something, learning, studying, and then trying to find the investment and actually build a business around this as well. Really, really hard. A lot of work. So the thing that I found during this point, okay, is if you don't have the money to pay people, do it yourself. Just do it yourself. Just learn the skills and the things that you need to do and do it yourself. And now it's not like I'm building a rocket ship here, you know. It's not where you need hundreds and thousands of people or whatever. This was a game, and you could build a small game and you can learn the skills, which is... you know, I needed to start to learn that myself, which is why I did the FPS game. I think that was the reason, but that game was too big. But that was my first Unity game where I decided to be in control. I built the game, and I didn't really need anybody else at that point. If the other guys decided to go away and not do it, I could still build this thing on my own. Whereas with the other situation, the Mario Kart style game investment and the MMO thing, they had the game, they had the control, they knew what they were doing. I didn't have any money to offer, so there was nothing, there was no control. Couldn't do anything, I didn't have anything. No skill, no money, no control. So that's why I decided to sit down and fully learn Unity and build something myself, because then I had full control over it. Even if the artwork was not very good and the design wasn't good, it's okay, because I had full control of the project and everything. So that was a big step. That was a big realization as well, a big change. Because trying to get investment for a project that you don't even have the ability to show is very, very difficult as well. So anyway, I'm going to pause it there, guys, because I'm on nearly half an hour and I'm going for it here. So come back for part 5, and I'll be back in just a moment. Bye.